Welcome to the Awesome Earthkind podcast.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you. Could you please tell us who you are, where you work, what kind of work you do?
My name is Geri Pell, and I help people come to peace with money and their finances and get peace of mind. I own a financial planning and wealth management company named Pell Wealth Partners, and I live in Stamford, Connecticut, and our business is located in Rybrook, New York, Manhattan, New York, and Orange County, New York.
Wonderful. And why did you move to investments in clean energy? What was the motivation behind that, Jerry?
We have a big practice in sustainability and investments in clean energy and in all things sustainable. We are really founded on sustainability. I started working in this area in 1986 in what was called socially responsible investing at the time. And I really wanted to integrate an environmental lens over everything that we did, and found that it was important to invest in companies that were paying attention to their carbon footprint and were using energy more efficiently and sourcing their energy from renewable sources. I wanted to make sure that we were looking forward to the future and not backwards, and not at things that were, when I got into the business, investing in not sustainability, but responsible investing was about not investing in apartheid, guns, tobacco, and alcohol. Now it's about what the right thing to do is. And so that's what we're trying to do, is to invest in sustainability.
Outstanding. And what kind of clean energy investments do you advise your clients to consider?
Renewables, so solar and wind are the big ones. Sometimes a little bit of geothermal and biomass, but mostly solar and wind.
And what are the forces that are driving these types of investments in clean energy? Like how big are the ESG and clean energy investment markets?
Oh my God, there is such a change in the sentiments and the interest in clean energy that it's unbelievable. The market has grown from just a few $1 billion of interest to $15 trillion of interest. And where almost one in every $4 of institutional investments are going into the environmental, sustainable, and governance space, not just the clean energy space, but the whole environmental, sustainable, and governance space. Companies want to attract and retain capital, and they're recognizing the financial benefit, and they're also recognizing that renewable sources are cheaper than coal. And so there's just the market is just expanding and expanding. When you think about things, Ron, that 1% of the globe is covered in potable water, and the fact that the transportation, the technology, and the transference of that water is going to be so important, especially as we grow around the globe in places like Africa and China, and there's the expansion all over, and then there's all the antiquated infrastructure under places like New York and Paris and Rome, when you think about how old it is, that, all of that it's really, and how much more energy we need. It's just an unbelievable sentiment and interest. Yeah.
So when you're talking to clients and they're saying, okay, well, this is all great, but what kind of returns can I expect from these types of markets? I mean, are they competitive, or are they better, worse?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and people definitely ask that. So, of course, clients want to achieve their financial goals, and that's the overriding thing. Although I have met a lot of people over the years that say, I need to be 100% sustainable, and I need to be 100% green, and I don't care what returns I get. But I would say more so, people want to be achieving their financial goals while driving a positive impact. And the really interesting thing is that over the past at least 5 years, if you look at the rate of return on sustainable portfolios versus the MSCI World Index, that the sustainable portfolios as an ETF are outperforming the other ones. And the outperformance is substantial by 200, 300 basis points. This year in particular, since COVID started. It's the first half of the year and through now, the sustainable portfolios are up at least 300 basis points, which is 3%. And a lot of that is because of different kinds of energy being in the portfolio and how poorly, non-clean energy or dirty energy has done, and how well clean energy, technology stocks, and those type of things that we've been investing in has done. And so one of the things I'd want to tell you, and that your listeners would want to know, is that when you invest in clean energy and in sustainability, you first scan the stocks and make sure that they meet all of your financial screens. So you start with that. You don't start with, wow, this company looks great because it's clean energy. You start with, is this a solid company from a financial point of view? And then after that, we apply environmental, social, and governance scans over that. And then take a look at that, if that fits into a portfolio, and if it meets certain sector requirements, and all of the other financial scans that we would use.
Excellent, outstanding. So what kind of challenges have you encountered over the years, and what lessons have you learned, and what are you doing differently now than, let's say, you used to do?
I think that I used to talk to people about it and ask them if they would be interested, and kind of sense if people had a sensibility towards caring about the planet, and then talk to them about the investments. Or I would then let them lead me there. Now, at this point, at Pell Wealth Partners, we manage close to $1 billion for our clients. And we manage most of it on a discretionary basis, meaning that our clients give us their money to invest, and we'd certainly discuss their risk tolerance and the type of portfolio they want to develop. But once we're managing the money, we make the changes on a daily, weekly, monthly basis whenever they need to be made on a discretionary basis. If people don't give us direction and say, what do you think is best, we will choose the environmental, sustainable, and governance portfolio for them, because we are strong, strong advocates of those portfolios and of looking forward to that portfolio. So I've learned that. The other big thing that I've really learned that I would have never imagined in the beginning is about shareholder advocacy. So I get that if you buy a company that's doing good things, that, let's say, is in the solar space, that they can make, I'll just make it really simple, solar panels. They make good solar panels. You invest in the company, they sell a lot of them. Solar energy, it saves the planet, blah, 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 blah. But if you invest in companies that are doing good things, and enough investors invest into those companies that are scanned. I'll give you an example. Amazon. I'm not saying to buy this company, I'm not recommending it, but a long time ago, Amazon, there were a lot of shareholders from Calvert, which is a big company that invests in all socially responsible companies. And when they get the proxy rights from all of their shareholders, they then have the power to go to the companies that they own in their portfolios, and Amazon was one of them. Now, Amazon at the current time, they source 100% of their data centers are currently totally renewable energy. That's a lot. And that came from Calvert going to them year after year after year and engaging with them and talking to them about converting their data centers to renewable energy, and showing them what the difference would be from a profit point of view, from an ethical point of view, from a doing the right thing point of view. So I love those stories about the power of shareholder proxy and what the shareholders want, because the companies they're responsible to their shareholders and to their employees and to their product, so to everybody.
So not only is an environmentally responsible investment good because over the long term, an environmentally responsible, a socially responsible company is probably going to perform better because they take care of their employees, they care about the world, they get better brand recognition, all that type of return. And they have good returns on their investment financially. But in addition, by doing so, you then enable additional shareholder activism that lets you leverage your power even more, huh?
Exactly. And the shareholder activism is amazing. Little other examples, McDonald's changed the way that they fish to sustainable fishing on the McFish sandwiches. Just so many things have been done from shareholder advocacy. And
Fan-
things that one by one, one off, we would never be able to do, but the power in shareholder advocacy is huge.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a movement. I know that we've had someone on from Climate Voice talking about how employees can have a major impact on their policies, on employee policies and employer policies, and then by doing that, those employers have an impact on policy. But the idea that investors can also significantly shift the conversation is really fantastic because money talks, right?
Great way to put it. That's right. And shareholders have money.
That's great. So, what's your next steps? Where are you going next, Jerry?
uh, where we're going next is to really kind of get the word out and to continue to get the word out. I think the word is a lot more out. There's more percentage of people, if you look at the studies, that believe that we're headed in the wrong direction and think that something needs to get done to course correct so that we don't blow ourselves up as a planet, than people that want to invest in a socially responsible or impact investing way. And so, one of the things that blows my mind, Ron, is that we work with a lot of nonprofits with their endowments and their investments. And I can work with nonprofits who, just for example, their whole mission statement is against human rights violations. But then they have their endowment money and maybe even their 403B invested in mutual funds where they don't know that there are companies that could be having human rights violations. So they need to be greened. They need to have their whole portfolio greened, but they're not paying attention. So they just don't know. So to me, almost all nonprofits really need to take a look at that. Nonprofits, universities, educations. I know that it's becoming a bigger and bigger thing with universities to take a look at, and the kids are pushing that. This is really, really big with millennials and Generation Z. They're starting to take a look at how green the portfolios are. So, it's kind of a personal mission, as I'm doing today, to get the word out that, you could do good with your heart, do good with your brain, do good with your pocketbook, and that it's not exclusive at all.
It's all connected.
And you don't have to wait 7 years for the payback as you do with some energy. You don't have to wait for a subsidy, and you don't have to wait for a payback as you do with some energy investments.
Yeah, it gives you good returns right from day one, huh?
Right?
That's really amazing.
No guarantees, but
Right. No, there's never guarantees, right? Past performance does not indicate future.
ooh, said like a radio man.
So one of the things we asked is whether you had an inspirational quote, we call them a quantum quote, that would help shift people's conversation and thought patterns. Do you have something you'd like to share?
One of my favorite quotes is, never put a period where the universe may have placed a comma. It's a George Burns quote, and Gracie Allen. And to me, that quote means many things. But in this context, it means that let's not put a period where God may have placed a comma. Let's not put a period on that it's all over with climate change. Let's say that it may have been a comma and that things can change in any way after this. I am a big believer that sometimes things have to get really, really bad before they get good. And things have gotten really, really bad. And we need to be really shaken up before action gets taken and things get changed. Habits, the world. And so I'm not putting down a period yet.
Excellent. So that actually will lead us into this next part of the conversation here then. So, okay, so sometimes things need to get really bad before you hit bottom and all of a sudden realize that the way you were going was not where you wanted to be and you got to change everything. So, when you take a look at your worst clean energy moment, environmental moment, investment moment, could you share that and what happened and what were your lessons that came out of that that changed your perspective?
Uh, you know, one of the things that clients tend to do is to hold on to stocks for emotional reasons. And the biggest emotional reason that people hold on to things is, but I inherited this from my grandmother or my father. And one of the biggest holdings that I seem to run across all the time is ExxonMobil. And it was like the stock that everybody bought in the 20s and 30s. And a lot of people that are boomers have come to me with huge holdings, and they didn't want to sell it because, well, I've been holding this stock for, 15, 20 years. I inherited it from my parents, and it's got huge capital gains. So I don't want to sell it because I don't want to pay the taxes, and I don't want to sell it because I don't really want to hold oil, but my parents gave it to me. And then the Exxon Valdez happened. And A, they felt terribly, and B, it wasn't good for the stock value. So holding on to things emotionally when it's against your values and when it is dissonant with your portfolio has been a disaster for people, a disaster, especially, I had one person who had a position like that. It was a $600,000 position in a $1.2 million portfolio, which was half their portfolio, which no one should ever have that much stock in a portfolio. And they just watched it right down, and they couldn't bring themselves to sell it. So not a good decision at all. So that's a big thing that I've learned is to really help people get over that.
Amazing. Thank you. Well, what's one big and unique value supernova we call them, just an insight, something that you've done with clean energy that you think is a unique tip, tool, tactic that people need to know, but most people don't. That was a good one, by the way, but that was also a clean energy or worst moment.
That
But
was the worst moment. I know. I
yeah.
think I'm supposed to start with the aha moment.
Well, we'll get to the aha moment. If you want us to do it to the aha moment next, we can. But I had skipped over the other one because you were right there on the biggest downer or so of the comma versus the period. But we can go wherever you'd like to go. So go ahead. You want to do the supernova or you want to do the aha moment?
Can the supernova be a funny story?
Absolutely, absolutely, sure.
So a long time ago, I think it was the first year the Prius came out. I bought a Prius, and my son was 5, and I took him to religious school, and they had the parents stay that day, and the rabbi was telling a story about recycling and saving the planet and blah, 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 blah. And then he asked all of the kids if they could tell stories about what their parents were doing in their homes. So one kid raised their hand and said, well, my parents recycle. And the next one said, my parents, we make mulch. And the next one raised their hand and said, we give our clothing away when we're done to somebody else. And my son is raising his hand and standing on his chair and jumping up and down. And the rabbi finally called in him, and he stood up on his chair and he said, my mother is saving the planet. And everybody started cracking up. I guess there'd been a sign in the Prius dealer that said, will you save the planet? And the rabbi said, how is she doing that? She bought a Prius. And I was like one of the first ones to have one. And I guess the big supernova out of that is that anytime you can demonstrate what you're doing for a reason and show the next generation and the people around you the values that you have. I mean, and look how something like that caught on and how cool it became. How Brad Pitt and everyone in Hollywood started driving Priuses, and how cool it became to do everything from a clean energy point of view. And that wouldn't have caught on if it was just something that people in Woodstock were doing. So all behavior is truth, and demonstrate what you believe in.
Oh, very powerful. All behavior is truth, and demonstrate what you believe in. Thank you. That's amazing. Yeah, they've done a bunch of studies on solar, and what they found was it's not the amount of money that you have that indicates whether or not you'll get solar or how smart you are or educated you are. It's whether or not you know somebody else that has solar. And if you know someone else who has solar, so if you do solar, the chances are someone else will follow you. And the same is true with electric vehicles and with all these other environmentally responsible things. If you take it on and you show your neighbors and your friends, chances are a lot of people will start doing it, and then we'll all do it, which would be
And
great, right?
steps to do it, and yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Outstanding. Okay, your aha moment. So an example of something that happened, you were like, I got it.
You know, I'm going to go back to something that I said before, which was that I want people to really understand that you can march in a march, you can protest at a rally, but you're going to have more power as a shareholder to change something big. That the power of a dollar really was a big aha for me, because I've been to every rally and I've marched for everything. And I know you were there right from the No Nukes, concert at the beginning and all of that. And we've all done a lot of that. But I've been to shareholder meetings too, and I've listened to shareholder resolutions, and I've listened to companies go around and really make substantive changes, whether it was in the way they packed things or the amount of energy that they were using, or changing their fossil fuels and their carbon footprints, all based upon shareholders encouraging them to do so and saying, hey, this matters to us and we own the company. You as the board of directors may make the decisions, but the shareholders own 60% of the companies, and you've got a 60% mandate that wants to do this. So and then they'll put together a committee, they'll look into it, and that's how change gets going. And we're talking about, big Fortune 500 companies. And we always wonder how to make change, and that it is a huge way, but that doesn't get done unless you invest in those companies, and usually through mutual funds. And this is what's really changed in terms of an aha moment. When I started, there was one mutual fund company. Then there were 3, then 5. Now everybody, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Pax, Parnassus, Domini, Calvert, everybody is in the space. Everyone. Columbia, everyone's in the space.
Amazing. Fantastic. All right. Pulsar round. Here we go. Short, succinct, amazing, and mind-blowing answers. Are you ready?
Okay.
Great. Okay, here we go. So what's the best advice you've ever received?
When you get to a wall, don't stop. Figure out a way to get over it, go around it, or if you have to, go through it. Just keep going.
Just keep going. Love it.
Just keep going, Geri. Don't give
One
up.
of the personal habits that contributes to your success. It's probably that one.
I meditate.
Oh, wow.
I think that meditation is the key to remaining level, being a good leader, being able to focus on things that I need to focus on, and all the millions of reasons that the meditation as well, and also being able to help my team and everyone else that I work with to freeze in a moment, check in and see how they're feeling, analyze it, and then be able to work with it and process it, help people to get over their nervousness, help clients. And I'll tell you one thing, when the market is as volatile as it is, and you get days like, we happen to be recording this on a day where the market is particularly volatile, and people call all the time with really big fears about money. People have big fears about money. I always see I'm the equivalent in the financial markets of a neurosurgeon. That's when I'm at my best. I've been training for 40 years for this, to scrub up and go into the OR. That's not when I get nervous. But you can't do that unless you've got a clear mind, Buddha mind.
A Buddha mind. Excellent. Love it. All right. An internet resource that you'd like to share that you think people would find some benefit in?
So I love the Yoga Works website. I used to go to Yoga Works when it was a studio that you could go to live, but now they have pre-recorded classes that range from 3 minutes to 30 minutes to 45 minutes to 10 minutes. You can pick the part of the body, the level that you want, whether you want it to be a Zen class, an active class, and there's just choices and choices. And so if you want 10 minutes to do your shoulders in between Zoom meetings, it's there, and it's fabulous.
Outstanding. Thank you.
And
A
that
book.
feeds your internal energy. This is all your internal energy.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's great. I like it. So yoga works, eh?
Yeah, Yoga Works. A book that I would recommend to people. Um, there's a book that I want to recommend on sustainable investing. And there's so many that it was really, really hard for me to pick one. But I really, really admire Amy Dominy. She's one of the leaders in the field, and she's one of the pioneers. And she writes about making money while building a better society. And she wrote a book called Socially Responsible Investing, Making a Difference and Making Money.
Nice.
It's
Excellent.
not one of the newer books, but it's unbelievable. And she's
Sounds
great.
sounds great.
Okay, I'll give you a second one if somebody wants something newer. There's a book that I really like called Green to Gold. That's all you need to know to look it up. The rest of the title, though, is How Smart Companies Use Environmental Strategy to Innovate, Create Value, and Build Competitive Advantage.
Outstanding.
Now that companies are getting into it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic, right? Yeah, it gives a lot of hope, right? So yeah,
Uh,
we had a conservative on in one of the recent shows who was really interesting because you wouldn't think that someone who identifies as a self-proclaimed conservative, but his perspective was the root of conservative is conserve, and that is really the key. Is that when you're really a conservative, what you really want to do is protect all life and all living things and the environment, and that's the root basis of it. And meanwhile, he found that by going this route, not only was it good for his pocketbook, not only was it proven practical and profitable, but in addition, it was great for his brand because everybody then started coming to him to learn how to do similar things, and it wound up his employees were happier, his customers were happier, and his business grew. And boy, talk about win-win-win-win
yeah,
situation.
yeah.
So
I like that.
yeah, it was great, right? All right. Magic wand. If you had a magic wand and you could wave it and change one thing in the whole world, what would it be?
When I first saw the question, my immediate answer was food security. But then I had to back up and say water security. So I don't know how deeply you've delved into this, but I've spent a lot of time on it. Um, the sheer number of people in the world that do not have access to clean water is, and the parasites that live in the water and the amount of death that it causes is just horrible. So, and it's so easily solvable. And there are easy solves for it. And there are lots of companies that are doing fantastic things and creative things out there to get clean water to a place, especially places like in sub-Saharan Africa. So knowing that that's solvable, I would then go to easily to food security for everyone.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. WTF or F? Weather time fudge, an extreme weather event that you lived through and care to share the story about. Or weather time fun, some of the most fun you ever had in the type of weather and the season it was.
I'm going to go with fun.
Yoo-hoo!
I'm going to go with fun, and I think that the type of weather that you made me think about this, the type of weather definitely made it more fun. So I had the opportunity as a corporate retreat once to go on one of these like outward bound things, and I found myself standing on top of a 165-foot cliff, attached to a tether, jumping off of one of those what is it called? Zip lines.
A zip line.
Over,
Love those.
over a raging river, free fall. You had to free fall about, 5 feet before it caught, and then you went down the zip line, and it was the most amazing experience. I was scared to death to take that first fall. I did not expect that I was going to be afraid, but I was. But what I was going to say about the weather was that, they had us line up, and they said, this is how we're going to line up. If you're not afraid, you go in the front. There are about 20 of us. If you're really afraid, you go in the middle. And if you don't think you're afraid, you go in the back. So like the ham and cheese in the middle and the sandwich in the beginning. So I thought I wasn't afraid. So I was towards the back. But when I got to the front, I was petrified. And so it took me about 5 minutes. And the whole exercise was in trusting people. So my team was encouraging me to jump. And it took them about 5 minutes to get me to jump. It was gorgeous out. We were in right outside of Santa Fe, but it was springtime. It was 70 degrees, no humidity, beautiful weather. I think if it had been 90 and humid and sweaty, I would have given up. I wouldn't have had the patience to stand there. And if it had been freezing, I would have given up. There were so many factors that would have made me say, no, this is just annoying. The beauty of it and everything, I stayed. And of course, the second the zip catches you and you start to fly like Peter Pan, you say, I want to do this again. I want to do this again. So that was my fun.
Ziplining, beautiful. I love ziplining. It's a great sport. Absolutely. By the way, over here, not too far from me in Hunter Mountain, there's a 4,000-foot zip line, which is one of the longest in North America. And so someday we should take it up. They stopped doing it for now, but it's really pretty incredible. It's a great ride. Okay, what's the one thing you're most energized about today?
This show. This is very energizing to talk to you, Ron. No, I'll tell you what I'm energized about. I am energized that a blue wave will mean great things for sustainability and for the future of the planet. And on the other hand, a Trump win will mean that the entrepreneurs and the innovators will continue on the path that they have been. So after the last election, we were really nervous in the investing world that because government money was not going to flow into investments of, any of these type of investments, that it was going to be the end of it. But instead, private companies, people, they just doubled down and said, well, we're just going to have to figure this out on our own. And it's been great. And the returns have been great. So I see a win-win either way. But I'm energized at the way it's looking in terms of the possibility for a blue sweep.
Okay. Well, one way or another, we hopefully will survive, right? So, my hope is that whatever the outcome of this next election, that we all realize that it's a really small planet and we've got to come together and figure out how to live together. Because if we don't, we'll kill each other off and then we'll be gone. And all our children and all the future generations will also be gone. And that would be darn not a good thing at all. So hopefully we'll all figure out some common and some higher ground to take us to where we need to be.
Right. And I wasn't so much getting political as I was just saying that from an investment point of view and the investments I was talking about, what would do best. And also that, we all have to and will and should, we're going to share the same air, the same water, the same earth and the same sun. And I want to do it peacefully and happily.
And no matter what the outcome of politics, we still have to do it, and we'll figure out a way of making it happen, because that's what we humans do. We figure out ways.
And we always have. And I'm also a strong believer. Remember that thing I said about don't put a period where God may have placed a comma?
There we go.
We've been at odds before. We've been at bad places before. We've been through civil wars. This is one of my favorite things to say to people. If you were in London in 1941 and bombs were going off all around you, and I told you to invest in the US stock market, what would you have said to me? Are you crazy? Hitler's storming, Europe. We're falling. The world's ending. We've been in bad places before. We're going to be fine. No
Outstanding.
matter what, we're going to be fine.
All right. Grand finale, a piece of parting guidance and advice. And then if you'd like people to connect with you, the best way for folks to get a hold of you.
My parting piece of advice is the best thing that I can say to people is to answer this question. Do you know for sure that you are not going to outlive your money? And if you can't answer that question, then you should probably have a chat with a financial advisor who can help you answer the question, will I run out of life before I run out of money? Find one, talk to one. Consultations are usually free, and it is the most releasing, freeing, peace of mind giving thing that you can do, a gift to yourself. The way to get in touch with me, Pell Wealth Partners. We're on the web, Pell. My name is Geri Pell, and my phone number is 914-269-6732 or geripell.com.
Geri Pell, what a pleasure. What an outstanding, wonderful, inspirational interview. Thank you so much. Any additional last things you'd like to say?
You are awesome, Ron Kamen. You are just an awesome podcast host. You're a pleasure to be with. You're always up and in a good mood, and you are just doing so many things. And I hope that a lot of people are consulting with you for how to be kind to the earth.
Well, thank you so much, Geri. And it's really the people that I speak with who inspire me, and you've done that again. So thank you so much, because every interaction I've ever had with you, I've always walked away feeling like, wow, the world's pretty good, and you got people like Geri around. It's really an awesome place to be. So
Yeah,
thank you so much for everything that you do, too.
thank you.